Ladies and gentlemen, the next topic, the next subject here on the main stage on this conference today is about, it's a serial killer. Is it a serial killer? That is the question. How to create and kill 100 ideas in 5 days. Everybody of you know, getting an idea, having an idea is really very, very important, and it's very, very difficult to get an idea. 100 ideas in 5 days, that means 20 ideas a day, that's around 1 idea per hour, and we have an expert talking about this subject. He's the founder of Lean Startup Machine, which is kind of Startup Weekend, but better, I would say. And he's talking on stage now about this. His name is Ralf Westbrock, and I look where he is. Ralf, are you already in the room? He's in the room. Ralf, you don't have a microphone right now. You have a microphone. Then come on stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody get a seat. And then welcome on stage. If we have a... Can everybody take your seat again? Then we can give the stage to Ralf. Yes, we continue the program. Movement is also, and connecting. We learned this right now. This is important. Okay, so there is Ralf, the founder of Lean Startup Machine. Please give a big round of applause for Ralf on stage. Ralf, your stage.
Good morning, everyone. I'm super happy to be here. And I have to start with 2 minor disappointments. Number 1 is I'm not founder of Lean Startup Machine, but that's not a problem. Number 2, I'm still a bit 2017, but that's not a problem. So here we go. I'm here because I was invited as a serial killer. Still, no one of you scared? And it's about, actually, I would consider myself more of a mad scientist. Because what we do is we actually experiment a lot, and that's how others kill their ideas. So just briefly about who we are and what we do. We're actually a company with a funny logo that translates to straightforward products. And we have a unique passion in bringing great ideas into successful business models. That's the puzzle we most care about. That's our total passion. So actually, I believe that's your passion as founders and entrepreneurs as well. And we believe that any great idea deserves to become a successful product, though most won't. Okay? Most won't. So we care about really saving time in finding out whether that works. And that's why we want to share about a great experiment. What we do as a living, apart from that experiment, we help startups and existing businesses with new business development. So we help to search and validate business models to find product market fit, and then for corporates and established companies, we actually help with product discovery, formerly known as product definition, and to do innovation accounting, which means proving that your business and your products get better. Because most product invests actually make products worse. But that's another story. Let me introduce you to the serial killer. This is a picture of the serial killer. Looks a bit similar to here, a little bit more activity, right? So what I'm going to share with you is about an event called Lean Startup Machine here in Munich that actually is open to individuals as well as startups. And it took place 5 times with a European record of 150 people in between. So really it's a huge event with people not failing, although it's the claim of the overall event, which is a worldwide event. We're doing Munich, and I believe Munich is one of the finest events. We're not focusing on failing, we're actually focusing on evolution. So it's adapting. We don't say fail early, fail often, we say adapt early, adapt often. Because we don't want you to fail, we want you to adapt to succeed. Now, here is first the front stage. So what you can see when you go there and how the experience will feel like. And then I'm going to take you backstage, so talk a bit about the methodology and what we do, and then I have a few learnings for you. So let's get this going. The first thing when somebody talks about Lean Startup Machine is that many times it sounds weird. Like this guy, Peter, who now has a little business with a fancy table, very flexible table called the Flipper. And I met him after the event at a local meetup, and introducing himself, one of the personal introductory points was, yeah, and then one year I attended Lean Startup Machine Munich, and it totally changed my life. I felt like, you know that moment in the Matrix when there's this helicopter, you don't have a clue how to do that? And you plug into the system, you get an upload, and afterwards you have like new superpowers, right? And he was saying, that was my experience. It totally changed my life. So here's another guy, a crazy guy. Lars Müller, founder of Solid Mind. So if you need nutritional products for sleeping better, having more energy, whatever, Lars is producing that by now. And he said that the weekend took away much of his fears, the fear to fail, because now he knows that it's not failing, but it's adaptation he needs to make his business successful. And the third one, and there could be many more, didn't totally fit to the page, is Lukas Lohove from Sizzle. Sizzle is an awesome app to learn the Chinese alphabet, or Chinese characters, I should say, which are like 100,000 characters. And they've actually taken a different history from our alphabet. So originally it was drawings. So every symbol represents originally drawing. And you have to learn them, and that's very hard. And they, during the weekend, as a startup, learned how to really quickly test with customers. And it changed their startup culture to actually continually include customers. So hearing that, you might think, well, that's marketing bullshit. Unless you talk to the specific people. Actually, I thought myself initially it was bullshit. Because in 2012, I joined the Lean Startup Machine as a mentor first. And we had a very exciting event at Waiver. And there was this guy from Lean Startup Machine US. He came over, Raphael. And Raphael made a show like US style. Like bouncing in and hyping you up. If I could show you right now, this would be like the German counter design. Okay? So he was really pushing energy into the room, and I was thinking, wow, that's so American. Is that going to work? I guess he's going to fail. He didn't. And it got even worse. So in the introduction for the weekend, he told us, we're not going to build any products. Not at all. But still, you win it, usually, with these data to prove. Like 5,000 email signups, 1,000 euro in cash, or 5 contracts from big companies. And I was thinking, yeah, sure. We're going to see that in 48 hours. No way. Until I saw what the weekend did to participants. So the actual winner of that weekend ended up Saturday night in Kaufhof Sports in the local mall and talked to golf players. And just telling from what problem they're going to solve, they got pre-orders. And just a few hours later, on Sunday morning, calling those people back who handed over their mobile phone numbers, they actually were able to pre-sell their offer. And that is how they listed roughly 1,000 euro sales. After 48 hours, creating a new team with a new idea that actually in the beginning was something completely different. So they adapted to success within 48 hours, and I thought, it's a drug. It's a drug for me because it's so much fun to do that. And since then, we've been taking over that format in Munich and pushing it further. So that still sounds ridiculous, does it? Who thinks that's really crazy? Who thinks? Yeah? Who doesn't believe me? Well, that's very polite. Thank you so much. I know many of you don't. Still, let me try to show you how it works for participants. And one counterproof. Who's been attending Lean Startup Machine, Munich or somewhere else? Okay, they're all outside because they know the story. One, thanks much. So here we go. One of the secrets is actually you make people stop thinking, not totally, but to a certain degree. So I like to use the term, it's a stampede. So we have 150 people, and once 20 people start running through the weekend, the others will not slow down. So one of the examples I can give you for how we push it a lot is the idea flea market. So everyone is presenting their ideas, right? We have very brief pitches, just describing what it's all about. And then after that, we have these little cards or larger cards. If you want to build a larger card, feel free. And we tell you have 20 minutes to find at least 3 people to work with you on the idea, or it will not make it for the weekend. And that's the moment when people have a sign and say, hey, this is my idea. We tell them, okay, it's now or never. Shout out. And one person is going to start to be like the famous Hamburg fish market sales, like, okay, here, it's my idea, I'm the most innovative guy, actually telling what the idea is. And if one person starts, we need a first follower, you know that. So if 2 do it, everyone's going to do it. And we use these little methods, which for you now feel like, hey, that's strange. I think we need to do an experiment. I want all of you to stand up now. So I could actually already finish the experiment, but we're going to take one step further. Okay, I want to have frenetic cheers. Cheer as loud as you can right now. So that was a cheap trick because I'm a speaker. But don't forget, when I'm running the event, I'm a speaker too. So this was a different energy in the room. Look outside, what the other people. Okay, now let's look outside and let's get that loud that either all windows are breaking or those people are going to look over, okay? So 3, 2, 1, yeah! Thank you so much. Actually, I didn't have a plan B, what's going to happen if this fails. But you see, feel free to sit down, by the way. If you have any smartwatch triggering your pulse, then you've made some progress for today. You're welcome. So you see, it's quite easy to take a little step, like stand up. If you had sitting down, I would have failed. I would have need to adapt to try something different. It's all about assumptions. Anyway, you see that it's pretty easy once people start standing up, that others stand up as well. Once people start cheering, others will cheer as well. Some will resist because they hate it. After some more time, you would have joined or left the event. Some people are going to leave the event every year. Some people are going to cry, by the way, but that's a different story. Well, it's new people meeting and team building within 48 hours, trying to win, things happen. So the stampede part really is an interesting thing to experience. The other thing is we don't talk much. Thomas, no, I didn't call you for a talk. You can stay in the back. So that's Thomas having a talk. On Saturday, which is like the main action part, we only have 4 method talks. And they are really brief. They are just presenting the very fundamentals of the methodology and for you to enable you to take the next step and do the next experiment. That's all. Apart from that, you're actually working out. So that means you're in touch with your customers all of the time. No pause in between, and you're getting out of the building. These are some pictures like from the pedestrian zone, but many times you'll just walk where your customer really is. In most cases, that's not the pedestrian zone. That's the early assumptions when you still believe that consumers are your customers. Okay? So you'll need to find out who's your customer, and then you need to go where they are. So if your customers are like 5-star hotel managers, you need to go there. Which we had in one event, and they actually made it to meet 4 out of 5. So nothing's impossible once you believe that you can sprint and run. Now, what we do for mentoring is pretty easy. We kind of just set a focus. And that is, we help teams to stop discussing. Who's been discussing about what customers need within a team? Raise your hand. We all have, if we ever did. So at that moment, it basically is proof that you don't know. Right? So the first event, it was a surprise for me that basically I stop any discussion and say, go out, talk to your customers. It's as easy as that to get started. And then, of course, you need to get better at that. So get out of the building is one of the guiding principles, and always include your customers. By the way, whatever business you're running, at whatever success level, always include your customers. Not only in sales, marketing, and customer support, but actually wherever you're really generating the value. So the other thing is people have an easy time to find out whether they failed. But to actually make them learn and see the things that they discovered while failing is something that's level 1, and then helping them to adapt is the other thing that's really the more difficult time or more difficult thing for a good mentor. And then it's interesting, the final pitches are very different from what you're going to see tonight, because we don't care about a great pitch. What we want to see at the end of the weekend is we want to see, number 1, that you did learn. So almost 50% of the whole pitching score is built upon your learning progress. So if you come up with an idea and you found out why it won't work, and then you adapted, you tested it and you found out why it won't work, and then you adapted and you find out why it won't work, you still did a great learning progress, right? So that's something we're going to honor. So you can still make 50% almost of the score by just showing how you learned. And we are not going to accept just I failed. That's no learning. But what did you learn from the failing? How did you learn? And that is something you need to present. So basically, the pitch template is pretty easy. It's 3 slides. Number 1, it's about the team. Number 2, about the experiments. And number 3, about the traction, which are the other 50% of what makes your score. So that is traction. Actually, how much sales did you get? How much data did you collect? Like email addresses, mobile numbers, whatever. The third thing is, well, the actual results, like fake sales. So just telling that we make sports great again won't work. We have 1 year of Trump now. So let's look backstage. That was like the attendee experience backstage. What are we doing? The first thing is, I always hear people like, we built an MVP. For most people, that means it's like a reduced version of the product, and that won't help. Because just look at this, right? So you want to get in the paddling market for kayaks. What are you going to prove? Who's going to enjoy this? No one will. So that's not what we consider an MVP. We have different types of MVP, and it all starts with interviews. For us, interviews are a minimum viable product because you're actually testing assumptions. And it goes further with more elaborate experiments. So to run effective interviews, we know that everyone is doing interviews, but that's usually how they are used. David Bland called it the product death cycle. It's pretty easy. No one or too few people use your product. Then you talk to customers what they want. They tell you exactly, you can measure precisely. You add it to the product, and after that, it didn't have any impact. Let's do a test on braveness. Who's experienced that? Yeah, you're honest. So that's something that just won't help. And we need to do a different thing. So the pretty easy master rule, one rule to bind them all is we're not interested in opinion. Usually customers, when they say what they want, they give you an opinion. Like usually when you ask them why they do things, they give you an opinion. We actually are very bad in describing what we really do, because we generalize and we have a pretty positive opinion on ourselves, hopefully. So we need to dig into the behavior by observing, but also you can do that by just verbal interviews. Like having someone tell about the last time, or another time, or the best time, or the worst time he experienced a specific situation, and going into a detailed story. And that will be very different from the generalization. So it's a good bit of methodology that changes the game. So for early stage validation, which is the brand new ideas, we basically have 3 very simple steps. The first one is tell us about your customer segment and prove it to us. So who's your customer and why should they care? Right? Don't forget, nobody is looking for your product. Everybody is looking for a better version of their days or lives or themselves. So if you want me to be interested in your product, you need to tell me something about myself, something that's not perfect today. And that's actually what makes a customer segment. It's not about age, it's not about income, it's about the tasks that need to be solved by your solution. The second step is the value proposition. Does someone really want what you have? And we don't do that doing sales. We don't do that doing sales, but we actually just show a product to someone we believe has a perfect match with that product. And if that person doesn't want to have it just from showing it, then the product is not ready for scaling. Right? If we still need to sell, if we still need to convince people that it's what they need, and not just find out whether it's the proper segment, something's wrong. Third stage, once they have it, will the product make them happy? So that's just very easily the 3 things we're doing over the weekend. That's the validation. And even if you don't make it within 48 hours, you're going to understand those principles and you're going to experience when things won't work. One thing we learned, young ideas are much better. So the ability to adapt really decreases the more time you've already thought about an idea. No matter what you did, whether you tested, whether you built, building is the worst, by the way, it's much harder to adapt when that idea already has a certain age and you even just discussed with people. You talk to some experts, some friends confirmed what you believe. It will make adaptation harder. So whenever we see someone come in, pitching an idea, and he tells us, I have this idea for 3 years now, it's like we're going, oh my gosh, it's going to be a hard time for the team. I shouldn't have told you that if you ever go to the weekend. But, well, yeah, I should tell you. If you go there, someone tells, hey, I'm having these ideas for 3 years now, you should pick a different team, in general. So that was like taking you backstage. Now let's have a few conclusions you may take for yourselves. Number 1 is, developing a business model is about evolution. So it's like surviving of the fittest, not the strongest, not the most sponsored one with the biggest funding, but the ones who adapt quickest. See, when children learn, it's just the same. They quickly adapt from whatever feedback they get, like in this example. So it means you always need to include customers from day one. Day one. Whoever you believe is your customer, talk to them about why you think they need your product, not about your product. Then run small experiments. Don't go for one MVP. Don't go for one launch. Don't go for launch to learn. The more you invest before getting in customer contact, the harder it will be to adapt, right? So, most important, don't just fail. Make sure you learn. I'm seeing so many products going up. Then when you talk to them, they say, yeah, we have a great product and the process is really fine and it's really meeting customer demand. But you know, we have a slight problem still with Google AdWords pricing. Someone tells you, yeah, marketing costs are still too high. Basically, that means they don't know who their customers are. They try to invite everyone to a party no one wants to go to, right? So that won't work. Second one, understand customer jobs. So, you know this, right? No one is interested to have a drill. What do they want? No one wants a hole. Nice trap. Whoever stood up one morning and said, I want to have a hole today in my wall. Okay? None, right? You actually want to fix something somewhere. That's the customer job you want to do. And if you go back to that perspective, well, I'm sorry if you've already built the best drill in the world. Go back to that perspective and think about, can we find a superior solution? So the first thing would be look at existing solutions and check what makes them weak. So like, is there a way I don't have to buy that machine? Which in average for its lifetime, by the way, is used 15 minutes. And the second one, I don't want that risk, like breaking stuff, and I want less dirt. And the third one, let's make it suitable for weaker people. Remember that time with that concrete ceiling where you tried to install the lamps and like your arm almost fell off? Now imagine you're really a weaker person, like an old person, that's just not doable. So if you look from that perspective and think about what could we do differently, then you come up with different solutions. Like maybe a simple glue solution that still takes 80 kilos of weight. So you can come up with real disruption, okay? Next one. We thought we were doing a startup competition. At some time we understood we're not. Rarely have we seen a great startup come out of Lean Startup Machine event, but we're doing two things. I believe we are creating great entrepreneurs. And actually, we're doing change. We're changing the way people approach that problem of creating a new business model. And the first thing is we're breaking conventions. Remember from the start, like the American thing, I thought that's crazy. And then I learned how it helps because it's a very different environment. Now we can do totally different things. So I remember in 2014, at Vera, we had 150 people in that Agora. And I, as a speaker in the Saturday afternoon talk, I felt like I can make you do whatever I want, which was scary, really scary. But at the same time, I noticed, okay, I can bring change for the better for some things. So try to really break these conventions. The other is don't start with best ideas. So whatever you consider a best idea is something you have rationally thought through. And once you've built your own arguments internally for why it's the best, it will be very hard to adapt. So start with the mad, the crazy, the new ideas, and just playfully work with this idea machine. And last thing, larger groups go faster. We do a lot of these stuff with companies, and usually companies are handing over like 1 or 2 teams. Now, if you have one team stuck because they haven't done a great team building for now, and the other team does believe in the method, you're done. You just cannot go further. You need to first make that change. Now, if you have a larger group, one group is going to trust you. And when one group trusts, then they'll make progress. Once they make progress, the other look like, oh, it's working. It's crazy. We need to try this. So, that's pretty much in time. What I wanted to share about a great event, I would be very happy to connect, so feel free to add me. And follow me on Twitter. Actually, I'm not that much sharing there, but still I'm happy to read everyone else. And feel free to attend Lean Startup Meetup Munich, which is a great event to connect about that methodology. And well, I think we have just a little bit of time left for maybe one question.
Perfect. Ralf, first of all, thank you very much. And you said already that we're going to have a network break right now, so people can contact you also. They can apply for the weekend also through these addresses. Is this possible?
Well, we're going to change the name a bit because the name suggests that it's just about Lean Startup. We want to come up with a new brand and a slightly different format, just pushing it a step further and to make sure that it's something for you as a person. Could be something for you as a startup, but especially for you as a person. Yeah, well, Lean Startup Meetup Munich community will be the best place to stay in touch for that.
Great. One or two questions that burn under your nails. Again?
Yeah, so you mentioned in your talk high marketing costs and related issues for startups. And what do you think about a non-electronic cigarette brand? And do you think they will fail because they have too high marketing costs? So do you think this is the right strategy?
I have no clue who they target and why. They didn't tell me, so I have no idea how they will proceed. But well, you hear some rumors that it's not working out that good, so it could be a typical symptom. So maybe, yeah, they haven't really understood what the customer job is they need to solve.
A good question before the break. Smoking is of course outside today. Also, digital cigarettes. Digital cigarettes, please, also outside. Okay, one more question. Yes, gentlemen.
As an investor, I often come in that this phase has been done. All these startups always tell me they did all these steps very carefully. So how can I validate that this is true?
I guess you need someone to inspect the methodology, because I exactly know that situation. Like, they are showing you traction and they are telling you they've spoken to like 200 people, and it's for us it's pretty easy to find out just by looking at what they did, or even just sometimes by asking, okay, who's your customer and why? Like, I'm not going to tell names, but I was walking by the startups prior to the talk. And they told me, yeah, you know, we got contacted by a big company. And I asked them, so why did they get in touch? Basically, I had no clue. So if there's no answer, yeah, it's great. They have a big company, but they need to find out why. And it's most of the time just need to listen.
All right.
For you personally, Dave McClure with 500 startups, their investment strategy could be something very interesting for you. We can expand on that.
Excellent, Ralf. Thank you very much for this for the moment. We're going to go into the network break. Two announcements for this. One workshop just started some minutes ago. It's about how to avoid major failures when founding. You got your first applause. Please, Ralf. Yeah.